Welcome back to Rusty Jeep. Today's video is a common issue with Jeep TJs, rusty body mounts. Now, there's a couple products out there that you can use. You could either use caps. A couple companies make them. I don't see too many videos. I see a lot of videos about rusted frames. A common issue is the body mounts, and I figure I'll make a step-by-step video on how I'm going to put my safety cap on. Now, I chose safety cap because I thought it was just a better product, and I like the fact that it's the full length of the two body mounts that are rusted out, and I think it'll be the best thing for this particular Jeep. Now, a couple things that you need to know before we even start the video is I'm not a professional welder, so if you don't feel comfortable with welding, you probably shouldn't do this. That's the first thing. Second thing is do some prep work ahead of time. Just like when you're doing a body lift or anything, I already had all my bolts loosened. I broke 2 bolts on that side a while ago. I don't have to worry about linkage on my 4-wheel drive having any issues by lifting or tweaking it a little bit because I have a cable for 4-wheel drive. I have a video about that. I loosened the fan shroud, even though I don't think I have to. I did loosen it just in case. On the safety cap, something I was looking at the instruction. Oh shit! Dropped the cigarette. Sorry about that. This one, they said to slide it on from the back, so I'm going to be taking the tire off. Now I'm going to jack this up ahead of time, put it on jack stand, but actually not take the tire off until the last minute. That's something just small and minor, but we'll go through it, and we'll see how it goes. Okay. I just want to show you something that no one likes to show. A jack with a 4x4. That's what you're going to use to jack up the body. I put it on the beginning of the torque box. I happen to have 2. I put that one where at the beginning of the torque box where the tray connects. That's not going to have any pressure on it. That's just a backup, just in case something happens. If it falls down, it'll be right there. I also have 2x4s cut as pucks for the back body mount and the front body mount. I loosened up the loosened up the side mounts on the other side, so when I jack up, this body will twist pretty easily. So let's start that right now. Okay, I got the Jeep jacked up. It's off the body mount. I took the pucks out. I just want to show you the rust right there. And that one's going to, you could see it already. So now what we're going to do is, you can see almost a spot weld. I'm not sure if I can, right there. You can see the spot weld right here and spot weld right here. I'm going to be cutting pretty much from right here to right here, and that's where the safety cap's gonna go over. So I gotta cut that and that. I kind of did, if you could see, since we're gonna be welding up here, let me go better view of that. Since we're gonna be welding right here, I already kind of cleaned all that area. I'm gonna clean it a little bit better, but my next step is to sand this down, sand this down, cut that out, and then cut that out, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how that looks. I'm going to be using 2 different types. I'm using an angle grinder, a die grinder. I'm using a couple of different things to cut this out. Okay, I'm back, all cut out. The center one, you can see, like I showed you, is rusted through on both sides. Pretty much that is toasty. Now, I cut past those 2 spot welds like I told you. And I'd recommend cutting past the spot welds because that just makes a nice little hole in there. It's not as clean up here as I'd like, but it's going to be covered anyways, so I'm not really worried about it. The inner frame at this point, because I have access to my inner frame because my floorboards are cut out right now, I'm going to do that later on and actually coat everything in there when I'm done with the floorboards. So that's why I didn't do that. But the outer frame, I basically put a rust, I think the thing that changes the rust over, and then I put a coat over it. And the back one, that's the one I want to talk to you about. That was toasty also. As you can see, it's pretty rotted through. But the back one was my big pain in my ass. Let me get my finger from here to here. I just couldn't get anything in there. That's why I see it cut up, then it cut up this way, angle cut this way. I was using wherever I can get, whatever tool I can get to get in there just to cut that, and it finally got it off. But that is actually a big pain in the ass. So expect that to be a pain in the ass. Now I did put the safety cap on there, and it did fit on without the tire coming off. But I'm going to take the tire off and do it their way, just because I want to see if it lines up easier if you slide it. In general, it wasn't horrible. I used a 4.5-inch angle grinder with a metal cutting disc, and then I used a 3-inch grinder with a cutting disc. I used a little hand saw. I pretty much used whatever I can use to get in there. But that's what you should have when you're done. Like I said, test fitted it, and it does fit in there. Has no problems with it. So I'm going to take the tire off, slide that thing on, and see if there's any difference by me sliding it on, and I'll be back. Looks like it's all lined up. You ought to take the tire off. I mean, I'm looking maybe it'd be easier to get in there to cut. I don't know. I have no idea why. One thing I do notice is I can hit up here, this side goes down. So I think the whole thing with, sorry for being the whole thing for bringing it back down is to basically get it to seat right on there. Because I think how this thing is, once it seats in there, it's not coming off. Well, it can come off, but you have to pound it out a little bit. Just busting this down a little bit. Okay, that's spiced down. You can see that there is an opening here, so I gotta figure what I'm gonna do with that. I don't like how that looks. There's definitely a gap, so I'm gonna guess bringing it down is gonna. I'm gonna guess when you put it down, they tell you to line it up, drop it onto the mounts, and then see if it lines up. If it lines up, weld it. I'm gonna guess that that's also gonna seat it, because I got this clamped and I have this, and it's still not level, it's still not flat, so looks pretty lined up to me. So I'm gonna drop this fucker down. I'm going to drop this fucker down and see if it lines up. Okay. Can't believe I have to fucking... Right there. There. I just want to see I'll be a motherfucker. Lines up. let's get the other one. Flag on the field, early celebration. Oh, I had the safety cap on the tub, and I lined the bolts up. I put the bushings in, they lined up, and when I lowered the tub down and tried to put the bolts in, the back bolt fit perfect. The middle bolt was off, tilted on an angle. No matter what I did, I couldn't take care of that angle. So I was, I did that for an hour, and I finally figured it's not the safety cap. It's probably the tub tweaked out a little bit. So I disconnected the roll bar on this side. That way nothing is holding it down. And then what I did was I bolted the safety cap onto the body mounts with the bushings. I torqued them down, and then I slowly lowered the tub down. And sure enough, it was off kiltered a little bit. The tub back here was up a little bit. So what I did was I basically took a vice clamp, clamped it down, and I let it sit overnight. And this morning I came back out here and I undid the bolt, put the bolt back in, and that lines up. The back bolt, same thing, took it in, took it out, that lines up. So the tub was just torqued a little bit, maybe because the mount was broken and it was sunk in. God knows, maybe because it wasn't level, the torque box was a little bit kind of caved in a little bit. Who knows? But right now it's working. The center bolt is fine. The back bolt is fine. So all I'm going to do is clean it up, weld it up, and call it a day on this side, and then start the next side. But so that can be an issue if you have an older Jeep and it's all twisted out. Don't freak out. I mean, it doesn't say the instruction, but it worked for me, man. Mounting the safety cap onto the body mounts, and then lowering the Jeep on there, and then seeing where the issue was. Hey, it worked out. Nothing's ever easy, is it? Nothing's ever easy. But if you're working on a car, nothing fucking is. I mean, that's half the fun. And it's not fun, but I mean, you expect it after a while. Okay, let me weld this up, and then I'm gonna start the other side. Okay. Okay, so here are my welds. And now, don't freak out. That's not one weld. That's actually. I did the main weld, and then I came back and I was trying to overlap the weld to hit the top. And asked to weld this on your back, and we're not even talking about going back here and welding up in there. I did check all my welds right here. I checked all my welds, so if you look right there, they all did go through. I did a couple spot welds, and then I was burning, but I did have penetration all the way through, and I checked in a bunch of places, so I'm not worried about penetration, and that's what she said. Okay, let me finish up and give you my recap of the safety cap. So my final thoughts and review on the safety cap that fixed the center and the back body mounts of the torque box. It's like having a really hot girlfriend. Yeah, it's fun, but sooner or later it's gonna break your heart. And what do I mean by that? If you bought the segments from Safety Cap or anywhere else, and it's a little piece here and a little piece here, it's gonna be a lot easier to line up, and you saw my problems with that on this particular Jeep. Welding wise, it's going to be a lot easier to weld, and you saw my problems welding on this Jeep. I think in general you could finish it so much quicker. So if time is an issue and aesthetics is not an issue, go with the other pieces. If time is not an issue and you want something aesthetically more pleasing and that looks better, then by all means go with it. But just realize it is a hot girlfriend. Yeah, it looks nice, but it fucking hurts sometimes. So like, subscribe, hope you enjoyed the video. The next video is probably going to be the frame repair, and that is not safety cap. I found a deal on Amazon for like $109 for both sides. They're not aesthetically as pleasing, but for $109 it's like a fucking fat chick on a moped. Let's say we all ridden mopeds and fat chicks, that's all I gotta say about that.